Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Friday, July 3rd, the crazy year of 2020. And I am joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, the Detroit Sports Hall of Fame guy himself, Mr. Sugar Shane Caldwell. How are you today? And are you ready to attack some KBO?
Yeah, we're ready for some 4th of July fireworks here for the KBO. We'll be getting up at about 4:30 a.m. in the Discord to check out some 4th of July lineups over in Korea there. So I'm excited.
You know what? It's even going to be earlier, by the way. Tonight's games are 4 a.m. Eastern instead of the regular 5:30. So for me,
I think they're actually 5 a.m.
They are? What are they doing?
Yeah. They changed things up. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's 5 a.m. Eastern, which for you
You're right. 4.
So 4 for you.
That they've never done that time before.
No, I know. They threw you off there. Yep.
What happened to those nice nights when they did 1 a.m.? That was beautiful.
Yeah, they don't like the early games this time of year, I guess. I don't know what they're
doing. I don't know. But all right. So, the old I'll be in Discord at 2:50 like clockwork with you and Andrew. We'll be knocking them out. But good. How's everything going in Detroit? Have you heard any murmurs around there with the big golf tournament being there this week?
No. I mean, it's been pretty good here. It's been nice weather. It's extremely hot for Michigan. Heat index near 100 today. So for Michigan, that's a big deal. Up in the 90s, and plus it's been humid as well. So you don't want to be outside for too long. We're not really used to that super hot weather. So, it's been nice. It's better than it being cold. So.
Is there any rain, that's forecast this weekend, or should we be good for golf?
I think we're good. Yeah, we would have to double check the forecast. There might have been a couple pop-up showers, but I think we're good for the weather. So,
Good. Hopefully we get to ride that out. Yeah, KBO's been interesting. The good part about today, the cool thing is no weather issues. So as of right now, all 5 games look good because they really threw a curveball with we expected 2, maybe 3 games to rain out. They all played. So, who knows? That's really weird weather there. Generally, when you've got 40, 50% chance of rain for KBO, you might as well forget it, but they played. Yeah. It made for an interesting, a little bit different and interesting slate. But tonight we have some good matchups. We have a smattering of good pitchers, some, interesting takes. I know my build is a little unique tonight to what I've done in the past, so very excited to go over this with you. As we get started, though, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would ask you to like and subscribe. They should be right below us. Like and subscribe those. We want to continue to build that listenership and actually viewership, I should say, on YouTube to continue to move up the ladder of being searched for and taken a look at and get out there to more people. So we really appreciate that. If you're listening to us on our audio podcast, which is everywhere podcasts can be found, please rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars, comments. We love that stuff. And again, we're everywhere. If you want to watch us on YouTube or listen to us, you can find us everywhere, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we are there. Just have to search for DFS Coach Talk, or if you subscribe and hit the little alarm button, you will get a real nice notification saying, hey, the boys at DFS Coach Talk just posted another podcast. So we really appreciate that, and I want to thank our 2 sponsors for bringing this show forward today. That's mybookie.ag, the place to go for all your sports wagering and casino action. Go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code CoachTalk, all one word, CoachTalk, to receive an exclusive offer of a 50% sign-up bonus all the way up to $1,000 free bucks that they match. And then you also, just for being a Coach Talk member, get a $25 free play as well. And then also our friends, horse racing friends at TVG go to tvg.com to sign up there. Or if you want the special offer, which is a fantastic offer, go to dfscoachtalk.com, click on the TVG logo, and you will receive an exclusive offer to our members of a risk-free $300 bet. So if you have, there's some big races this weekend at Belmont. If you want to put 300 on somebody's nose, go for the big hit. If you miss it, then TVG refunds it. So it's a can't miss. Great offer. So we really appreciate both of them. And now, my man, it's all KBO all time. So here we go. The 5 a.m. Eastern odd time, 4 a.m. here in Dallas. The Hanwha Eagles at a stellar 12-39 mark against the tough Doosan Bears at 30-21. We go to the MyBookie.ag sports odds, and let's look at this one and take a double check on making sure it is completely up to date. All right, dude, have you looked at the odds? You've looked at the odds? So I can't quiz you. You already know. The Doosan Bears are minus 500.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's a little different on some of the other sites, but that's. On
mybookie.ag, you have to put up 500. They have to win, and you get back 600. I don't, if you have the 500, you don't really need the 100 in that bet. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. And, run lines, I like to play run lines. There is no run line in this game as far as the regular 1.5. The run line is minus 4.5. So you have to give 4.5 runs, and it's only plus 150. I think
it's a little lopsided. A little lopsided matchup here.
I don't know if you can you make that bet? I can't make that bet. To put up 100 to get back 250, so you profit 150, and your team has to win by 5 in order for you to win. So this is an interesting game to talk about for DFS. Wagering wise, though, definitely a little scary. Over under in this game also is 9.5, and we've got Mr. Min Woo Kim at 0-5 with a 5.19, and Mr. Chris Flexen at 3-2 with a 3.46. So rain that beautiful, wonderful intelligence of KBO down on us, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, this one isn't that intelligent, but I think that one of the top pitching targets is Chris Flexen from Doosan. Okay, so he's at home in Doosan. If you're not aware, is one of the best pitchers parks in the KBO. So you're in a great pitchers park against the worst team in the league. And Chris Flexen is one of the better pitchers. Yeah, he's only 3-2. He's had a couple rough outings against pretty good teams, but for the most part, he can go deep into the games. He has it's nearly 23% strikeout rate. Hanwha is going to strike out their lineup at a high rate as well. So I'm looking for Flexen here. He is $27 on FanDuel. I like him on FanDuel. He's $8,300 on DraftKings, which is pretty reasonable. I expect him to go, hopefully at least 6 innings, and he should be in that 6 to 8 strikeout range, and only give up 1 or 2 or less runs. And on FanDuel, he should be able to get the win and the quality start. So I'm really high on Flexen as probably the top pitching option. Now, there are some other good pitching options on this slate, which is nice. But I would definitely put Flexen at the top of the options here. Now, the pitcher for Hanwha is okay in certain categories and not as good in others. Min Woo Kim, he's actually has a pretty high ERA at 5.16, and his FIP is 5.36. His batting average, he's given up, is pretty good. Is pretty low, actually, at 274. He strikes out at almost 24%, 23.9%. So he has a high strikeout rate, but he gives up a lot of home runs as well. So this is a guy you can attack, but one thing that I will bring up that we talked about before on the podcast is Doosan doesn't score as many runs at home, so they don't tend to do quite as well at home here. And they're not necessarily that much better against right-handed pitchers, even though there's a bunch of left-handed stud bats in this lineup here. So for Doosan, I would like to target some of the lower price guys, and I don't think it's worth necessarily paying up for the high price guys like Fernandez and Jae-Hwan Kim, because those guys haven't had that many ceiling games at home. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. So real quick, Doosan, depending on where he's at in the lineup, I like Keong Min Hur, Hur is, and typically he's third base, and he moves around the lineup here, but hopefully he's near the top of it. Sometimes he'll bat leadoff, so keep an eye out for her. He's 3,400 on DraftKings and $8 on FanDuel, so I do like him. He is a righty going up against a righty, and he bats really good against righties. I like Kung Woo Park. Again, we have to see where he's batting in the lineup. Kung Woo Park, 4,200 on DraftKings for Doosan and $13 on FanDuel. And I like J-Il-O, who typically bats, clean up, 3 or 4. I guess it depends. Typically 3, and he's pretty reasonable still at 4,200 on DraftKings, being that this guy is really good, and he does do good against righties here as a lefty, and he's $15 on FanDuel. So those are the main guys I like. When I checked out Ju Hwan Cha, he's actually not as good at home, and he's actually not that much better against righties, even though he's a lefty. He's one of those guys that just bats good against the lefties. So that's kind of my breakdown here. I probably wouldn't recommend any Hanwha guys, even though they've been a little better lately. I wouldn't recommend any of those batters. So that's pretty much it for this game. And you can elaborate on if you see it different or what guys you got going on here.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that point, because I've been singing that song for almost 2 weeks now, and it's worked great. I've been stacking Doosan on the road and fading him a little bit at home. There's a few variations there depending on the pitching, but in the most part, I've been doing that, and it's not a small amount. We're talking a couple of runs differently. So, it is a definite difference, and they're not, obviously, that's not affecting the pricing at all, because they're not getting any reduction of pricing at home as opposed to on the road. In fact, sometimes they're higher at home. Now, you would think that would be a norm, but if you follow those statistics and know that they're way better hitting team on the road, then they're great to stack in that position and great to fade at home. Now, it is Hanwha. They're the worst team in the league, so that gives a little bit more emphasis to Doosan. I think Chris Flexen, anytime you're going to give me a pitcher that's minus 500 in Vegas, and he's not the most expensive player on the board as far as pitcher, I just think you got to go there. It seems like a silly fade, for 8,300, very, very reasonable, under the circumstances. You look at the Kiwoom pitcher is more expensive. Lim, the LG pitcher, is $100 cheaper. So Flexen at 8,300 is just bargain basement for a minus 500 guy in Vegas. She should get a quality start and probably more than likely a win. And I think you got to just roll with that, eat the chalk, be happy that he's the price that he is. So I'm with Flexen all the way around as well. I mentioned to you before the show, I have a little bit different strategy tonight on my build than I've had in weeks. And I don't like any one particular stack. And, I know that's a great way to go. I generally like to try to get 3 or 4 guys. Baseball's the best stack game there is in DFS. However, when things fall, like you said, there's some decent pitchers where they're good enough that you don't want to stack against them, but you're not going to roster them. And so for me, I hand build and play more cash than I do GPPs. So I'm going to do the old, one-offs, little tiny 2-man mini stacks, and just build my roster from there and base it around what I think are by far the 2 best pitchers on the slate. And so I'm flexing all the way, and 1 or 2 guys from the Doosan side will make my roster as well. I think you did a great job mentioning K. Hur. He's been tough, playing a little short in third. J-L-O is not, he should be a 5,000 plus player, so he's a good bonus. I'm looking more at those guys as opposed to $6,000 on Fernandez or something where it's just going to deter you from building other good bats. And when you go one and two off from each team and want to cherry pick good guys, you got to steer away from those massively priced guys. So I think I can get a couple decent guys from Doosan at a pretty good price, keep flexing 100% all my lineups. So we're dead nuts on the same theory in that game for sure. So let's roll. Let's keep it moving. Kia, 27 and 21. The Tigers are at the NC Dinos, 34 and 16. For Kia, you've got Hyun Jong Yang at 5 and 4 with a 4.67, and Drew Rosinski 6 and 1 with a 2.39. The updated stats on mybookie.ag has the NC Dinos minus 181, which seems like a fair price to me, and it is the single lowest run total on the board at 8.5. So something to take notice of there. So I'll just tell you this, and then I'll turn the game over to you. My pitcher that I'm going to play with flexing is Rosinski. I think, his stats, his strikeout rate, his ERA, how he'll do against some of these righties that can cause some trouble for in the Kia lineup, and his past performance in those type of games. And against Kia, I just think Rosinski is solid as a rock. I think that he's fairly priced. I know he's more expensive, than flexing, but at 9,100, we've seen guys $11,000 and 10.6 this week. So, for me, again, we preach on this show. We're going to give you some great stuff and some core stuff on this free podcast 7 days a week. 6 days a week for KBO because they take 1 day off. But, for me, Rosinski flexing, 9,100, 8,300, very fair, very safe, very strong. If you're playing cash games, I particularly don't feel like you should go anywhere else. Do you feel that way?
No, it's Rosinski is pretty tough to beat here. His 2.38 ERA. The last two games, he's made it through 7 innings pitched, and he went against the KT Wiz, who's been pretty hot bats, and Doosan. And so he's rolled in those games. So he's got 6 strikeouts in the last games. The game before that, 8 strikeouts. He's over 23% strikeout rate. Kia tends to strike out at a pretty high rate. Once you get down to the bottom of their order, they're a pretty weak lineup there. So they're not that intimidating. So Kia's a 17.8% strikeout rate. So I definitely like Rosinski here. Kia's got a decent lineup, but they're not really that scary. Not worried about it. And Rosinski's just been solid going deep into games and just being pretty dominant as a pitcher. And he's reasonably priced. He's not over $10,000. FanDuel, he's $29. And if you really find some value guys that you like on FanDuel that you think are going to go off, which there's a guy, there's a few players here actually from the NC Dinos that I can talk about. There's a guy that's a good a value play on FanDuel. But if you get some good value plays on FanDuel, you might want to pay up for Rosinski on FanDuel at $29, the top tier pitcher there, just because he has a really high upside for going 7 or 8 innings and getting upwards of 8 to 10 strikeouts too in this matchup. So that's certainly like him here. When we get to the batters, typically that means we're not going to probably target a lot of the Kia batters there. You could take a one-off guy here, but their stud guys like Tucker haven't been great. The Hyung Woo Cha has been okay. He's a lefty that typically bats third, so you could take a look at him at 4,500 on DraftKings as a one-off guy. He's $13 on FanDuel. Ji Wan Na, tends to strike out at a pretty high rate, so he's fairly cheap, but I don't know if I trust him either. And then on the NC Dinos side, I do like Hee Dong Kwan. So again, we have to see where he's going to bat. He's typically batting second. And he's an outfielder, and he's a great price on DraftKings, $2,700, and on FanDuel, $9. So he is got to be one of the core plays tonight. He's batting .315, 8 home runs, and he's going up against the pitcher Yang, who's pretty solid. But Yang has had some issues. He's given up some home runs and hasn't necessarily been unstoppable. It's a 4.67 ERA and a 4.45 FIP for him this year. And he's a decent strikeout, 17.8% for Yang. But yeah, I really like Kwon at the value. If you really want to pay up for catcher, you can look at Yuju Yang. I know you like him, but he's $6,000 on DraftKings, which is very expensive. He is pretty good, though, and he's $13 on FanDuel. And then I also like Sukmin Park and Aaron Altier, both right-handers that'll typically bat, 5 or 6, just depending on the way their lineup shakes out. I like both of those righties against this left-handed pitcher Yang tonight as well. So those are all guys that I'm looking at, and that's pretty much it for this matchup for the most part.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much on the same page. I'm fading all the key hitters because I think Ruzinski could bear down and really have a good game here. He's been so steady, keeping the ball down and doing a good job. On the NC Dino side, you've got the issue. It completely depends on your build. I can very comfortably say, for me, 2, 3, 4, 5 are terrific. I have no problem with Kwon at that value price. Sung Bum Na's possibly the best player in the league. I haven't had Yang in a long time. I bet you I haven't played him in 3 weeks because they priced him out of this world. But man, what a good spot for him to go deep. And I'll tell you, I've loved since they moved Aaron Altier up to like around that 5 hole that he's expected to play in tonight. I just couldn't pull the trigger at the price when he was batting 7 and 8 all the time. But now that he's up to 5, the guy's just solid all over the place. He's a great batting average. He's got pop. He steals bases. I mean, he's just going to get you a lot of DFS points. So for me, again, on this quirky build that I'm going with one-offs and 2 guys here and there, right now I'm leaning towards Kwon and Altier just for a little price relief. Not that I wouldn't say Na and Yang are terrific, but you're going to really pay the piper on those guys. So
yeah, Altier has 14 home runs for Altier, and his batting average has been going up consistently. He's at over 300 at 308, and he has 48 RBIs, OPS of 1.002. So yeah, so he's definitely. How
many steals?
I have to see. I don't know if I have his steals right in front of me.
I think he has 8 steals, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, a guy that's batting in that spot, still getting steals, it just DFS friendly. He finds points for you. So I'm with you there. So I think for me, it'll be easy the rest of the way because I'm not hesitating to say I'm playing 2 pitchers in all my lineups. I'm not going to have any pivots. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't. We always say, hey, if you don't like a guy, pivot off of him. We're trying to give you a core to build off of. But I feel really confident about those 2 pitchers. So it's a matter of picking the right hitters in the right spots, to make the whole lineup come together. All right, we go to game 3, my man. LG Twins, 28 and 23 at the Samsung Lions, 28 and 24. For LG, it's Chon Gu Lim with a 4-2 record, 4.01 ERA, and Yoon Dong Hyo for Samsung is 2-0 with a 3.60 ERA. And we go to our friends at mybookie.ag. The line on that game is LG Twins are a 156 road favorite. And this game is tied for the highest total. So Vegas expecting the bats here at 10.5. So it puts a little bit different twist on this game. What is your take on the Twins Lions? And it's not the Detroit Lions, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Wrong. Well, it's just I like the Lions. I like the Samsung Lions in terms of they've been a lot better. I've been talking about that for a couple of weeks. This lineup has been pretty hot lately, actually, where you used to be able to just run right through them. So Lim is a really good pitcher, very solid. 24.3% strikeout rate. So he's certainly in play here. He's 8,200 on DraftKings and 28 on FanDuel. So he's really not that cheap on FanDuel. And so he is favored here, but this has not been an easy lineup. Samsung has surprised a lot of pitchers that are solid.
I agree with you. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I wouldn't play him tonight.
Yeah, I don't, because recently
Samsung, you didn't even grasp that good comedy.
Yeah, no, I got you. And, it took me a second because I was thinking about something else. That was good. You definitely went out on a limb there. So Samsung recently, their current lineup is really a little over 15% strikeout rate. So they're not striking out as a higher rate. So they're not as easy to strike out. Their on base percentage is going up. I mean, they're just getting on the bases more, and they've just been solid, and they have a little bit of pop in that lineup as well. So Lim is a good pitcher, but Samsung is not necessarily a lock and load matchup here. Now on the other side, I really like the lineup going against Yoon Dong Heo. He's a lefty. He doesn't strike out at a high rate at all. What was he? 7.6% strikeout rate. He's walking a lot of, he's walking a lot of guys. 14% walk rate. He's given up a ton of home runs. Really high home run percentage given up here. Obviously, that puts him at a pretty high FIP. So he's definitely a guy. Yeah, FIP 6.93. So he's really struggling. Can't strike players out. He's putting a lot of guys on the bags. It's a perfect combination here, and I like LG's. They actually have some lefties that are really good batting against lefties. Kind of that reverse split thing that you talk about. So and they're pretty reasonably priced, some of these guys. So Chung-Won Lee, the leadoff hitter, is only $3,200 on DraftKings or $8 on FanDuel. So Chung-Won Lee, a lefty, he's really good against lefties. Check the splits there. Hyung-Soo Kim is at the top of one of the top guys there. He typically bats 2 or 3. He's $5,300. DraftKings $15 on FanDuel. He's also really good against left-handed pitchers, and again, this is not a good left-handed pitcher. So I think it's worth paying up for Hyung-Soo Kim tonight. And then Yu-Sung Cha, or Che, however you want to pronounce it, he hasn't been as good since he came back from his injury, so I'm not really high on him. And Roberto Ramos has started to heat up a little bit.
He homered.
He finally homered. His splits aren't quite as good against lefties. He's not batting a very good high average against lefties, and he's just coming out of that slump. So I'm a little bit nervous about paying up for him. I mean, the guy's talented, but I'm not as high on him. I do like their catcher, Kang Nam Yu, at $4,500 on DraftKings. It's hard to find a good catcher that has some power in a great matchup, and he's $10 on FanDuel. And I do like Ji Hwan Oh, their shortstop. He's $3,700 on DraftKings or $9 on FanDuel. And he's another lefty that hits really good against lefties. And again, this is a great matchup for him. So I like those, probably the main guys there. Anyone else that you like in this game that we haven't brought up yet, or what's your opinion here?
Well, Ramos had gone 42 at bats without a homer until last night. So he's out of that slump. He is an outstanding hitter. I remember vividly watching him take a left-handed pitcher way out of the ballpark. So I don't think Ramos is a bad play, in the fact that he is streaky. And if he's seeing the ball, this guy does give up dingers. And I think people are going to see that lefty, and he does have a little issue with splits, but he can go deep. So, yeah, I'm tempted. to pull the trigger. I think there will be some people that see his stats and know he homered yesterday and don't realize about the 42 at bat, homerless streak. So I may end up not pulling the trigger there, but I wouldn't eliminate him from the ability to homer tonight. That's for sure. So really for me, I'm not crazy about this game. I think there's a few guys that have some potential that are priced okay. Jae-Woo Koo from Samsung, I think you can definitely take a look at. He's on my radar. And then really for LG, you've got a few guys I think are overpriced, but Ji-Hwan Oh, the guy that's batting second, is a middle infielder that can fill a good role for you. I agree with you 100% on Che. I think I'd wait on him. he hasn't quite got back into a groove since he returned from the injury. So I'm pretty quiet in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can take a look at. I was just pulling up the stats for or Won Sok Lee. If he bats cleanup again tonight, he's only $8 on FanDuel. If you for some value there, he does have some power. So I do like him. And yeah, like you said, Jawoku, I agree with you there. He's really good. And then they have also Ha-Min Park. I mean, pretty much the top of that lineup, the top 4 or 5 guys for Samsung have been pretty good lately. So you can, if you want some value plays, and then this Seong Gong Lee guy has been, he's been kind of a sleeper that's only $5 on FanDuel. He's been kind of up and down, but he has hit a couple home runs. Let's see, he's 2,700. Let's take a look at him on DraftKings here. Yep, he's 2,700. Yeah, he's batting .386 with 2 home runs, and actually he did go 2 for 4 last night and scored as well, and an RBI last night. So you're talking about an outfielder for Samsung, probably batting 5th, and he's a lefty going against a righty in Lim, who's decent, but he's a guy that's 2,700 on DraftKings and $5 on FanDuel. So if you need to pay down, I do like him as well.
I'll tell you, I think we'll agree on this point. Without question, to me, the most underpriced team of players in KBO across DraftKings and FanDuel is the Samsung Lions, and they're not bad. They're 4 games over 500. 28-24, they're hitting the ball, but yet the middle of that lineup, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can get them for a song. There are multiple times I've been able to just put in 3-4 or 3-5 and get super value there, and a lot of times it pays off. So I have a big circle around Samsung just because they're playing better and they're underpriced.
Yeah, people are going to be scared off from Lim as well, who's a solid pitcher. But I think Samsung could get to him tonight. So I think that's a good matchup.
All right, game 4, buddy. SK Wyverns, 15-36. Lotte Giants have dropped to 3 games under 500 at 23-26. We have Ju Han Kim at 0-3 with a 5.73. And Jun Won Seo at 3-1 with a 3.92. My bookie has this game as Lotte as a home favorite at 181, minus 181. And this is the other game that's the highest run total on the board at 10.5. So this game is very interesting. This game is where I will be filling in my little 2-man stack here. So what do you think?
Well, I mentioned this to you when we were talking earlier for the podcast. This pitcher for SK Wyverns, Jo Han Kim, he looks like a lock and load type guy in terms of stacking against him. But when I looked into it a little bit farther and not just breezing over the stats, I feel like he's actually not too bad. He's not too bad of a pitcher. And so he's went the last few games here. He's actually done okay. So let me pull up his stats for the last couple games. So last 2 games he went up against LG and Kia. Both have decent lineups, and he's only gave up 1 earned run. So that was a little concerning for me. Now, there was a couple games earlier in the year where he was pitching out of the bullpen where he got blown up in the short time period, where he'd only pitched like half an inning or a couple outs an inning. And because he gave up a couple runs there, that made his all his statistics in terms of ERA and his FIP and all that stuff skyrocketed. So if you look at his statistics in a very small sample size of only 11 innings pitched, it looks like he's really bad. When I think when he's settled in, he seems to be okay at containing batters and not giving up a lot here. So that's why I'm not necessarily really big. I mean, they could certainly get to him. It's a pretty experienced lineup here for Lotte, but I'm not necessarily looking to stack a lot of the Lotte guys. But I have no issue with taking a couple of the guys that you like in this matchup. But yeah, it's not as obvious a play as you would think with that high of ERA and statistics.
That's a good point. And, you may have people that this is their stack. They may go 4 or 5 deep with Lotte. So I'm with you. I respect that. I did notice that, as well as, if you're coming out of the bullpen and you pitch to 2 batters and give up 3 runs, it takes a long time to get that ERA and whip back down to something reasonable. So I respect that the guy's done okay. So I'm not monster stacking here, but I will probably, grab 2 bats from the Lotte side. Osiop Son, man, I've been the Osiop Son whisperer this year. Every time I play him, he comes through, and I see him being my first choice to roster on that side. And then either Jun Woo Jian, who's reasonably priced, or Dae-Ho Lee, who has lots of pop. Those 2 guys are also in play. So the 2, 3, 4 hitters, I'd like to pull 2 of those into my lineup, and it doesn't break the bank. And then on the SK side, I'm a little sour because I've been on this Jamie Romack run for some reason. I don't know why, because he hasn't really come through for me. He's the kind of guy, 5 points, 6 points, but when you pay that money for him and you use that first base position up, you expect him to blow up. So I'm sitting him after playing him all week. So I would assume he'll go deep at least twice.
Yeah, I mean, you got to still like Jeong Cha and Romack in this matchup here. Those guys still hit pretty good. I think Jeong Cha is actually better against righties, though, last time I looked up his split compared to Romack. So I like Jeong Cha. Definitely their number 1 power guy. And this pitcher for Lotte does give up some home runs. He's given up quite a few home runs.
He's pricey, though. He's pricey.
Yeah, he is pricey. I think he's probably worth paying up for if you can fit it into the lineup build here.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right, let's finish this recap up so we can get on to building some winning lineups and also doing some PGA here coming up in a little while. Nice. All right, last game on the board. Kiwoom Heroes 32-20, KT Wiz 24-27. We've got Wu Tae Cha at 4-3 with a 3.71, and William Cuevas at 3-2 with a 4.81. The MyBookie line on this game has the KT Wiz as a dog at home, Kiwoom a 136 slate favorite, and the over-under here is 9.5 runs. Interesting game, interesting matchup. 2 decent squads. How does this play out for you, Sugar?
These pitchers are both pretty solid here, so I don't know that this is going to blow up that much. Cuevas and Cha have been pretty solid pitchers, but they're not really the top-tier talents where we want to go and attack against them. Cuevas has gave up quite a few home runs, so he's a guy that you could target some of these power bats. I know Byung-Ho Park and Jung-Ho Lee have been on fire. Those guys are really stud bats there. So I have no issues playing those guys, Jung-Ho Lee and Byung-Ho Park. They're both $14 on FanDuel, and they're both $4,500 on DraftKings. So what I would endorse those guys, being that Cuevas does give up quite a few home runs here. Cuevas, 17.8% strikeout rate, so nothing too intimidating there. So those are kind of the plays I like on that side. Of course, their leadoff hitter, Seo, has been hot as well, so you could take a look at him, Kyung Ching Seo for Kiwoom. And then the KT Wiz, we got to take a look and see if my guy Bako Kang is playing. He was off last night. We just got to verify, see if he's in the lineup. But I don't really love those guys against Cha. I think he's a pretty solid pitcher for Kiwoom here. So I don't love those guys as much as we normally would. But Jeong Dae Bae, their leadoff hitter for the KT Wiz, is only $2,800 on DraftKings. He's an outfielder and $10 on FanDuel. So he's a pretty good value there. And then Jae Gwyn Hwang, the third baseman, has been on fire the last week or so here.
Yeah.
So you have to take a look at him. And then, of course, you got Melro Huas Jr. and Bako Kang in there. So I kind of like the 1-2 guys, Bae and Hwang, the best, just because they're pretty reasonably priced. And on DraftKings, it's good to have a solid third baseman there. Sometimes it's hard to find a good third baseman. But I just don't think this is like an ideal upside matchup for him. I think these pitchers are pretty solid. And I think on the Kiwoom side, you can look for a couple of those power bats. But other than that, I'm not going to play a ton of players from the game.
Yeah, again, in my whole theory, game by game, I'm just, plucking out a few guys here and there. I mean, I think Jung-Ho Lee, he's so solid and so strong against righties. He's got a lot of pop, line drive hitter. I think he's a $5,000, $5,300 player. So as long as he stays in the mid fours, I'm going to keep rostering the guy because he's steady. Park has been pounding the ball too. So Byung-Ho Park. So righty, lefty, it really doesn't matter. And again, his price is very fair. So I'm with you. Those two guys, 3, 4, I think are the guys you circle. Catcher wise, I know he's expensive, but Mr. D Park can also go deep. I played the Park brothers. They're not brothers, but I played them both a couple times this week. And one time it was great. One time it wasn't so great. So, I think in this matchup, though, I like, the 3, 4, 5 hitters for Kiwoom the most. If you have the salary, you can always put Mel Rojas in. The dude is a stud. He's terrific. And, it's just you got to pay that money. The only other guy I wanted to mention was Hwang, like you said. Because he's been on a roll and, third base gets a little rough sometimes. So again, we're thinking a lot alike tonight. I think we're on the same page. So hopefully this synopsis gave you an idea of what we're looking at. We talked about it and we'll start reminding everybody, we have a really, really sure-proof process here at DFS Coach Talk that we follow in our main sports. It's been a little bit different in KBO because it's a different world. People didn't know what KBO was. We didn't either. I mean, a couple months back. So, but the foolproof method, you could start using it now. We'll be using it in the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, and we're using it in PGA and start. I think we all know enough about KBO. We could start using it here. And it's the 3-step thing. Listen to the podcast. That helps you build a core, get an idea, find a few fades, get all of that in line. And then the second piece is log in, make the right contest selections. Don't wait till the end. If you're a cash or GPP, make sure you get in the right contests. Get a core lineup set with what we've talked about and a few that you like. And then you got to jump in Discord. I know it's painful with KBO as opposed to the main sports because as tonight for me, I'll be in there at 3:50 a.m. until 4:30 a.m. In the Central Standard Time. But it's key. I mean, it's super important when the weather's bad, but it's just as important for player moves because for me in a cash game, if I'm playing a 5-man and 2 of the guys didn't get up to change their lineup and take a couple goose eggs, you got a massive advantage. So tune in with us. We confirm all the rosters. We confirm all the lineups. We make sure everybody's in, ready to go. We provide that full FanDuel lineup. We provide that player pool for DraftKings. And, you'll be foolproof knowing that everybody you're playing and who you've decided on is going to hopefully garner some statistics for you. So want to bring that up. We'll start talking about that a lot as we get closer and closer. 3 weeks from today, sir, is Major League Baseball, followed the following week by the NBA. So we're down in the 20s now and heading to the teens on the countdown of major sports. But let's kick ass in KBO like we've been doing. And same thing with PGA and keep building that player pool up, for when we get all the big sports. I mean, it's amazing. Did you see the NBA? I can't believe the NBA contest on DraftKings.
Oh,
the first night. It's a Thursday night, only 2 games. They have a $3 million tournament with $1 million to first place.
Oh, it's going to be fun watching that.
Slate.
That's going to be a fun sweat right there.
I'll tell you, you can say it over and over again, and it's true. You don't really realize what you have until it's taken away. And we've just always year round since all of this started with fantasy and DFS, we just, we've always had a sport. And, when we've had to go dark for so long, it's like, wow, I think it's going to be a fantastic time for DFS players. And we're so excited at Coach Talk to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, definitely join at dfscoachtalk.com. Jump in, because the wonderful thing about it is you can become a member, monthly or annual member. And with that, your membership does not start until the first day of NBA, which is July 30th. So you're still getting almost a full month here for free with KBO and with PGA and the first week of Major League Baseball, all included. The clock does not start ticking on your membership until July 30th. I don't know anybody else in the industry that's doing anything close to that. But, we wanted to be here through all of this, ride it out, and get everybody in position to just crush it when the time comes. So we're very excited. Also, listen, follow us on Twitter. We're at DFS Coach Talk. If you want to catch us directly, DM us. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. My main Shane is at DET Sports Shane, and Andrew is at Language Olympic. On YouTube, we're at DFS Coach Talk, just DFS Coach Talk. Instagram, it's DFS_Coach Talk. And again, our website is just like you would expect, dfscoachtalk.com. And, jump in. This is the time. Take advantage of the free play time. And we have a great Discord, great group of members, outstanding pros. It's fantastic stuff. And then last thing, I'll let before I let you have the last word here, our charity of choice here at Coach Talk is mambaon3.org. Fantastic organization, MAMBAONTHREE, all spelled out .org. That is it, my man. Any final gems or tell us how everybody's taking down all this money tonight?
I actually like this slate tonight. I honestly, the last few slates, I haven't liked them as much, whether it was due to weather or just the crazy player pool that it's been. Tonight is looking really good. I think we can definitely gain an edge, and I would say it's going to be a 4-star slate for us. So if Andrew Hansen's listening, no 3-star slates tonight. We're going 4 stars.
Hey, he doesn't get to have a vote on the KBO slate. So
Exactly.
you and I'm going 4 stars too.
Exactly.
We're just going to do that right now and just trump Andrew. So he'll grimace when he hears that. But hey, we're going after it, man. So fantastic. Let's take it down. You can join us a little bit later this evening for our PGA podcast. Andrew and I will be hitting that for those of us like me that had guys like Scotty Scheffler, who I hate. She shot an 80 the first day. Can you believe I could shoot 80? I could shoot 80.
Yeah, I could have went down there and probably competed.
So anyway, for those of us like me that have to reload and go after the weekend slate, we'll building a new lineup for you. And we'll also be reviewing. I know Andrew has a couple of fantastic golf sweats coming this weekend where he's got a lot of his guys that made the cut. So join us on that. And then we have KBO tomorrow on the 4th of July, the fireworks edition. So definitely join us for that as well. And remember, please subscribe, 5 stars, anything you can do as far as that kind of stuff is greatly appreciated. We're always going to keep this podcast throughout all of sports 7 days a week in front of the pay wall. And, that's what we want to do is give that out there to all the players, and let's all take some stuff down. So that's it, my man. Great job today. And we hope that everybody just crushes it. So KBO action, big time tonight, big 4-star slate from both of us.
And happy 4th of July to everyone too. Since this is technically going to be 4th of July pretty soon here, everyone have a safe and happy Independence Day.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a quieter one this year. Not as many fireworks shows, but we're going to have our own fireworks with KBO. So we're ready to get that going. So thank you all for tuning in, and catch us again later for PGA, and catch us again tomorrow for KBO when we look to crush it in DFS.